It's a lovely evening and a warm welcome to Camnet Television, not just another channel. Presenting the news, I'm Namwinga Mwinga. We now look at the news in detail. The headlines, rather. Exam classes to lose about 20 days due to COVID-19, Mabumba. Zambia records high COVID-19 recoveries. Evolve or go under, Doja advises local businesses. TIZ demands arrest of unruly PF cadres. We now take a break and join us for more news after this.
Savenda General Insurance Limited is a young and vibrant insurance company that is focused on changing the outlook of the insurance landscape.
At Savenda General Insurance, we believe in a quick settlement of claims because we believe the customer is the reason why we exist.
Such living proof motivates us to know that you can count on us to actually be there for you in times of need.
We have been able to pay claims of about 14 million kwacha.
Savenda General Insurance Limited offers aviation, agriculture, marine, fire, motor vehicle, engineering and construction, and miscellaneous insurance.
Come and see what we're able to offer, what we can do. You will never be disappointed because we are here for you.
For further details, call us on 0211 250 278 or 0955 555744.
We all know how important good nutrition is to grow up big and strong. Not only is cowbell milk enriched with 28 vitamins and minerals, it's also boosted by the 5 most important vitamins, which we call Vita-Rich.
It's got vitamin A for good eyesight development. It's got vitamin C to help fight infections. It's got vitamin D and calcium to help build strong bones and teeth. It's got vitamin E to help with body protection. And it's got vitamin K for general well-being and immunity.
For good health and vitality, only cowbell with Vita-Rich puts you on the fast track.
Another news in detail. Minister of General Education David Mabumba has announced a new school calendar redesigned for examination classes. Mr. Mabumba says the second term commencing 1st June 2020 will run through the 28th August 2020, while non-examination classes remain closed until further investigations are conducted by the ministry in regards to preventive measures implemented against the spread of coronavirus. Speaking during a joint press conference with his information counterpart, Doris Leah, Mabumba adds that examination classes will only lose 19 working days all year due to closure and that teachers should ensure they find means of covering the lost days. Here is a report.
As well as for the exams is as follows, that the first or the second term will begin on the 1st of June and it ends on the 28th of August. Are we clear? After that, we shall have a 2-week break in which we shall conduct grade 9 and the GCE, which will run from the 31st of August 2020 to 15th of September 2020. If our assumption works very well and the term runs as I have stated, the third term is expected to commence on the 14th of September 2020 until the 4th of December 2020.
Meanwhile, Mr. Mabumba has also disclosed that a 24.5 million kwacha grant has been sent to various schools to allow them to be mobile and buy the necessities required for the smooth opening of schools. The minister has also said a $10 million United States dollar grant is expected from the Global Partnership for Education as part of the COVID-19 response plan to the Ministry of General Education in Zambia. Mr. Mabumba has since assured parents across the country that all school environments will be safe for the returning pupils and that back-to-school awareness campaigns will soon commence. Some youths in Lusaka have demanded that money meant to fight COVID-19 from various donors be used as a replacement for Youth Empowerment Fund. Those spoken to charge that government has for a long time not helped anyone benefit from the said fund, hence the need to use the donated funds to that effect. Some of their businesses have been hard hit as a result of the halted economic activities and have resorted to selling hand washer buckets as a slight resolve to their plights. We have more in this report.
Taxi drivers at least by the days unga busoka moja and stuff
people are not looking at us, so we are forced to look other means of survival. That's why we have entered in this business of buckets selling. The owners of the cars have grabbed out of us because we can't cash them. They need money at the end of the week, but we can't manage. At the end of it, we have decided to maybe look other means of survival. We have started this business of buckets, but it used to go well, but nowadays everyone almost have it. So even to sell a bucket today is a challenge. But please, the government help us. Single customer. But the owner of the car will want cashing at the end of it. So it has been a challenge.
Zibuere ndarama nota zingo kamba shati zibuera naye sona na babana wavutika tifuna at least pezeko tandizo manje akamba shati no tizakupasa ndarama tizakupushika ngoni tuma business kuti tikuboost ngeni ndarama na manje sizioneka manje tizachita bwanje na unga wadura vintu vadura manje zatia chani ati pushing eko ndarama ngati zona zilipo atitandizeko tandizeko nase vana watu watieko mushi Ndewa mene mangalira madam kozi tivutikiramo kubadi wati promise of invest ona monga ndise vana wang'ono.
We now take our first set of commercials. We'll be back shortly for more news after this.
The Cowbell Choco formula has been stolen. Get it back at all costs.
Tasting Cowbell Choco gives you the get up and go to be at the top of your game. Now with Vitalrich Plus Iron. Great tasting Cowbell Choco, a creamy chocolatey drink that helps give energy to get up and go.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
Super cereal. Super cereal. Super
cereal. We always start our day with nutritious super cereal. It's so easy to make. Just add hot water or milk. Fortified with essential vitamins, gives you energy and keeps you alert. Super cereal is so good for you. Comes in 3 yummy flavors: original, banana, and strawberry, and tastes so good.
Easy Super Cereal is made from non-GMO maize and soya and is good for the whole family. Found in all leading stores. Quick and easy.
Tastes delicious.
Full of goodness.
Makes you stronger.
Super Cereal.
Easy Super Cereal. Brought to you by
You're still watching Camnet Television, not just another channel. We continue with the rest of the news. A UPND aspiring Member of Parliament for Kabushi constituency has urged the media fraternity and media houses to take responsibility for protecting journalists. Anthony Bwalia says the media should be protected from the culture of unhindered politically motivated terror and gang violence at the hands of Patriotic Front cadres. Mr. Bwalia urged the media houses to block the unruly thugs and their sympathizers from media coverage because they are a danger to the practitioners. Here is a report. The country has recently been witnessing a spike in unprovoked violent attacks and threats against media houses and journalists by some suspected cadres. The most recent one are attacks on radio stations in Muchinga province. Not so long ago, President Edgar Lungu instructed party members not to be perpetrators of violence. It has also been noted that although the president and some lawmakers, some serving as ministers, have been condemning the acts.
Listen, especially the PF, but listen to me. I don't think anyone who belongs to PF and believes in what we stand for as PF would take pride in injuring another person simply to overcome that person's position in his quest to pursue his political agenda. So PF, I'm appealing to you, please be the carrier of the message of peace and love in the political arena.
There still seems to be no adherence for the acts to stop. The violence include threats on media houses and indeed physical attacks. United Party for National Development, UPND's aspiring Member of Parliament, Anthony Bwalia, has noted the condemnation by the President and the ministers as void of truth. Mr. Bwalia has further advised media houses to shun covering sympathizers of such acts of criminality, charging that they are a danger to journalists.
For us in the UPND, our position is very clear. The incidences that took place in Muchinga province, where we saw relentless attacks on media houses and journalists. The UPND takes the view that those attacks essentially represent an attack on the voices of the Zambian people. Because each time President Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND get onto platform and speak, we don't speak for ourselves. We speak for the 17 million Zambians. So any move to attack a media institution on the basis that they are giving a platform to the UPND and President Hakainde Hichilema, for us, in essence, represents an attack on the democracy and the conscience of the Zambian people. So we think that that has to be put in its proper context. But we have also been very, very clear that in an event that the incumbent government, in this case the PF, has demonstrated an inability and a lack of commitment towards protecting media houses and journalists when they are doing their job, as the case might be. We think that the media institutions themselves and the journalists, they have a responsibility to themselves to protect their institutions and to protect themselves.
Mr. Bwalia has further advised media houses to shun covering sympathizers of such acts of criminality, charging that they are a danger to journalists.
We have been on the record. We have addressed MISA, we have addressed the Media Liaison Committee, and we have told them there is absolutely nothing that is stopping media institutions and journalists in this case to stop giving coverage to organizations like the Patriotic Front, who are running terror and violence against media institutions and journalists. Because who knows, the next day they are going to attack Camnet-Tv and they're going to attack you. then what incentive do you have to continue giving an organization like that coverage when they are in the forefront of perpetrating violence and terror against journalists and media institutions like yourselves? And the UPN is very clear. We are not just saying this because the violence was perpetrated when the UPND was on air. We think that any organization, for that matter, that is going to be caught that is going to be caught in circumstances where they are perpetrating violence against the media and journalists. I think journalists and media houses are absolutely justified, and they will be absolutely justified to stop giving coverage to those institutions, political or otherwise, until the violence stops. We think that that is the only way that we're going to put an end to this. It has gone on for far too long.
For Camnet Television, in Lusaka, Namwinga Mwinga. In a developing story following last week's attack on Muchinga Radio in Chinsali and ISO Radio in Isoka, Transparency International Zambia has called for the arrest and persecution of political cadres who disrupted radio programs featuring United Party for National Development leader Hakainde Hichilema in Muchinga province. TIZ Executive Director Maurice Nyambe says no one should take the law in their own hands, or nor should lawlessness go unpunished. Meanwhile, Nyambe has called on politicians to desist from dividing the country as it struggles to deal with the coronavirus pandemic.
International Zambia, we would like to express our extreme concern at the events that occurred in Muchinga province, where cadres suspected to be from the Patriotic Front disrupted a program that was featuring an opposition party leader. We feel that we need to remind different stakeholders and all concerned that Zambia is a democratic country, and so as a country that aspires to the ideals of democracy, we are governed by the rule of law. And so the sort of lawlessness that we have seen repeatedly being exhibited by political party cadres really should have no room in our society. So we would like to call upon the Zambia Police Service to see to it that they investigate that occurrence and see to it that the perpetrators are actually prosecuted, arrested and prosecuted, because we feel that that will serve as a deterrent to other would-be offenders who may be under the misguided notion that they have more rights than others, or that there will be no consequences to whatever actions that they take. In the same vein, we would like to remind the different players from across the political spectrum, across the political divide, that in such a moment or in such a time when Zambia is struggling to deal with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, this is not the time for political players to engage in activities that are going to divide us as a country. But rather, this should be the time when political players should look for ways and means of galvanizing us as a country and bringing us together against the common pandemic that is COVID-19, the common enemy that is COVID-19. And so we would like to call upon every stakeholder from across the political spectrum that let us use this moment not to divide the nation, but to actually bring the nation together and galvanize it against this common enemy.
Zambia has recorded the highest ever COVID recoveries in the last 24 hours, with 34 new cases recorded today. During the update given, Dr. Victor Mukonka says Zambia has recorded 105, being the highest in one day.
Zambia has recorded the highest ever COVID recoveries in the last 24 hours, with 34 new cases recorded today. During the update given, Dr. Victor Mukonka says Zambia has recorded 105, being the highest in one day. In other news, Medical for Quality Healthcare in Zambia, MQHZ, in partnership with National Action for Quality Education in Zambia, NAQEZ, says it will visit more than 500 primary and secondary schools to monitor their readiness for reopening. The random visits will be conducted countrywide and the findings will be disclosed shortly after 1st June 2020, the date when schools for examination classes are scheduled to reopen. This is according to MHQZ Director General Quincy Mwabo. Dr. Mwabo says the two organizations will strictly monitor availability of desks, hand sanitizers, water toilets. Dr. Mwabo says the two organizations will strictly monitor availability of desks, hand sanitizers, water, toilets, as well as number of teachers. On the other hand, MQHZ has noted reports that some people are not visiting health facilities due to the fear of contracting COVID-19 and has since encouraged people to visit health facilities to avoid exacerbating their medical conditions. The organization has further advised the Ministry of Health to expedite recruitment of paramedics as guided by the President, adding that this will effectively combat the COVID-19 pandemic.
We now take our next set of commercials. We'll be back shortly for more news after this.
I've always been passionate about moving forward as fast as I could. Even as a child, all I ever wanted was to take first place at everything I put work towards. Whether I'm on the track or in the lecture room, my goal is to come out on top.
Growing up, we were always called Mafasho. You could say this paved the way for who we would become. We owe our success to our understanding of the power of storytelling, understanding what people connect to in order to give them what they desire.
We have always been passionate about people and honoring their stories. Our learning experience gave us the knowledge to channel our creativity into a business.
In order to start any successful journey, we must have a place to start. Even if that means we keep our mental image in focus as we become the inevitable solution to society's inevitable problems.
Which is why we all start our journey here.
Savenda General Insurance Limited is a young and vibrant insurance company that is focused on changing the outlook of the insurance landscape.
At Savenda General Insurance, we believe in a quick settlement of claims because we believe the customer is the reason why we exist.
Such living proof motivates us to know that you can count on us to actually be there for you in times of need.
We have been able to pay claims of about 14 million kwacha.
Savenda General Insurance Limited offers aviation, agriculture, marine, fire, motor vehicle, engineering and construction, and miscellaneous insurance.
Come and see what we're able to offer, what we can do. You will never be disappointed because we are here for you.
For further details, call us on 0211 250 278 or 0955 555744.
You're still watching Camnet Television, your channel of choice. However, we sincerely apologize for the previous picture mix-up. However, we continue with the rest of the news. An economic analyst says Vision 2030 is unattainable due to the economic slowdown. Yusuf Dodia notes that the 80% climb in the cost of doing business in Zambia, which is highly dependent on imports, makes realization of the long-term goal difficult. Dodia says the depreciation of the local currency against major convertibles does not help matters.
So when we're looking at ourselves now in 2020, and as we're going towards the second half of the year, we're literally in economic recession. And it's not just Zambia, it's the entire planet. The world is now in economic recession. And in Zambia, beyond that economic recession, because of the pandemic, we are also having our own domestic challenges which are making it even worse. And on top of that, government's resources to be able to support the growth of the economy are dwindling, because for the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen that the allocation towards debt servicing has been getting higher and higher in the national budget, leaving very little for developing economic activities in the country.
Mr. Dodia has, however, advised companies to reinvent their business strategies. Dodia says failure to change has seen some companies run at less than 50% of their capacity due to high production costs. Zambia's high debt, both domestically and otherwise, have influenced slow economic growth, with its GDP now just under 2%.
The current scenario we find ourselves in, where we have a running exchange rate that has really put the country into difficulties, where a year ago we were seeing that the kwacha was buying $1 at about 10, 11 kwacha to $1, and today we see it is almost 18 or 19 kwacha to $1. This has really meant that the cost of doing business in Zambia has shot up by about 80%. How does it reflect on us? Well, Zambia is an import-dependent country where most of the products that we see in our retail outlets are imported. And once the exchange rate goes to a level like 18 kwacha to $1, it means that Zambians have to look for more kwacha in order to buy dollar. And basically it means an increase in the cost of living for every Zambian, because they have to pay that much more. So we've become a high-cost economy purely because our kwacha against the dollar has deteriorated so much.
In business news, Zambia National Commercial Bank, ZANACO Head of Economics and Research, Dr. Patrick Chileshe, has advised government to commit towards unbundling arrears it owes a number of private entities if liquidity levels are to increase in the country. Bank of Zambia Governor Dr. Dani Kaliale announced Wednesday that liquidity influences in the first quarter of 2020 reduced to 1.2 billion kwacha from 2.0 billion kwacha recorded at the start of the year. The reduction has mainly been influenced by the net government spending about 2 to 3 billion in the first quarter of the year.
Government can unlock liquidity, especially if it gets committed towards unbundling the arrears that it owes a number of private entities. We've seen they've been promising to cut down on the levels of arrears that have accumulated. If I'm not mistaken, at one of the press briefings, the Minister of Finance did mention that by close of the year last year, arrears stood at around 26 billion kwacha.
Meanwhile, the Central Bank Policy Committee also announced that it has decided to lower policy rates by 2.25% in order to mitigate the adverse effects of the COVID pandemic on financial sector stability, economic activity, and ultimately on people's lives and livelihoods. However, Dr. Chileshe feels he is of the view that the decision by the Policy Committee will put pressure on the banks, as banks need to assess the risks that business entities present to them.
Decision also places a pressure on banks. Why? Because banks also need to assess the risk that these business entities present to them. Now, in the current environment, a number of entities are not operating, they are not making money, which makes it very difficult for banks to assess them, to assess their creditworthiness, especially with regards to their cash flows, which some of them are almost zero because they are not trading. So that makes it very difficult for them to access loans.
The Zambian economy has been facing significant microeconomic challenges as reflected in low growth, high fiscal deficits, rising inflations and debt service obligations, as well as low international reserves. The outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic has worsened the situation as it is already having the adverse impact on the economy through the restrictions on important trade routes as countries fight the spread of the pandemic. We've come to the end of the news. A recap of the top stories. Exam classes to lose about 20 days due to COVID-19, Mabumba. Zambia records high COVID-19 recoveries. Evolve or go under, Dodia advises local businesses. TIZ demands arrest of unruly PF cadres. Thank you so much for having been with us. This has been Namwenga Mwenga. Until next time, good evening and God bless you.